As a child, we all long for a hero. As a society as a whole, we search for that leader that can be our hero. But as we mature and as we grow, it dawned on us that the hero is inside every one of us. And in the world's social media, we all start at zero. And slowly we search deep within ourselves to find who we are. And we have that moment of truth where we embrace that the hero that we've been searching for has been there all along. It is living deep inside of every one of us. And we start embracing that journey and we become that hero that we search for.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode 70 of Zero to Hero. Got another amazing guest coming at you today. Her name is Brandy McCombs. She is the president of IBC, who just does amazing things. They know how to stay in business. So let's bring her in to talk about it. Brandy, how are you today?
I am wonderful. Thank you very much for having me. This is an honor, actually. So,
Oh, my pleasure. Well, thank you for the high compliment there. That's awesome. So, talk a little bit about, just to get us started here, what do you guys do there at IBC?
So this is where I tried to preface of this is where people's heads start to spin, right? We are a construction company. We are two construction companies, actually. One, I started in 2009 with interior finish commercial trim carpentry. So basically, what that is we walk into a one light tower, two light tower. We do a lot of institution banks and whatever, and it's white walls, and we go in and make things look pretty. We do anything that has to do with woodworking, doors, frames, hardware. When you go to like do the toilet accessories and even flagpoles. So there's a whole array of different items that we actually do on that side. And we also now I pivoted a couple of years ago and created another company called IBC Traffic, who is now responsible for all of the orange items that you see on Main Street right now through streetcar. So we basically shut down traffic, detour them around it, and then we go back in and once all the dirt work is done and the pavement is done, we restripe the roads. So a little bit of both worlds. So it just it keeps it very interesting. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously you saw a need there with everything happening in Kansas City, talking specifically about the traffic division of the company, and all the construction that's going on in preparation for the draft and the World Cup. And obviously we're expanding the streetcar and the airport's going in and all these different things. What was it that kind of clarity moment of, hey, we need to jump in here, right, and pivot over to this thing? Talk a little bit about that.
Actually, I started, this was 2014. So I had carpentry 09 and then 14 came and, as a lot of companies did in 2008, kind of started shutting doors. So people were like, you started in 09? Yep, I did. Because I was officing out of my house. I didn't really have any overhead. So I was like, okay, why not?
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, okay, 14, what if 08 comes around again? What am I going to do? What can I diversify in to create another revenue stream? And oddly enough, I walked into an event and Casey Streetcar Constructors was there talking about traffic control on phase 1 of streetcar where nobody was bidding on. And I'm like, well, what's that mean? Like, doesn't like Clarkson and Emery Sapp, don't they do their own, right? When you go down Manchester with those orange cones, are you saying that the Prime doesn't do that? Nope, they don't. And I'm like, oh, well, I think I can do that. So
yeah,
really long story short, I put a bid in on phase 1 and here I am years later. So that was 2014. The bid was done. We didn't really start until 2015. So that was phase 1, and all we really did was flag. So for the first couple of years, all we did was flag, move equipment, and then once it was over, I had the knowledge and experience, and I just started getting jobs, picking up here and there, and here we are, almost actually even in revenues with the carpentry after the short amount of 8 years of doing it.
Yeah, that is awesome. That is awesome. And obviously, we were talking a little bit about the show. That's a huge deal, right? I mean, it's one thing to have the cones, when you're actually laying the lines down and keeping people safe during these construction times. It's hugely important, right? Especially
Yeah.
with people driving around during the day, they're not paying attention, right?
And they're
Anything that we
mad.
can put out there, right?
They're
Absolutely.
angry. They're super angry.
Yeah,
Trust me,
anything we can
I'm
put out there
angry
to keep
too,
them
but when I see
safe.
my stuff, I was like, yeah, I don't have to be angry anymore.
Yeah. The good thing about that too is there's always better stuff coming, right? Like it is frustrating, right? When you hit those traffic zones and you're backed up and maybe that extra 5 minutes, before you're able to get to the office or whatever it is. But, improving the city is obviously a huge thing. Something that we love. My wife is involved with KCADC as well. So it's
Okay.
huge, right? I mean, we're all about Kansas City. So we love seeing it. It's very cool. So thank you for all your work that you're doing, not only to keep everybody safe, but let's talk a little bit about the carpentry side as well. So you mentioned a couple right off the top there, One Light and Two Light, obviously beautiful buildings.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about some of the projects that you guys have worked on there and kind of taking that environment that's almost like insane asylum-y, right? Very white, very basic, and really turning that into homes or comfortable businesses.
Yeah. So when we first started, before the multifamily projects started popping up everywhere, we worked on a lot of entertainment stuff. So Legoland and Sea Life
Very
was
cool.
one of our favorite ones. Sorry, but it really
Yeah.
was, because it was just
They're beautiful.
different, right?
Yeah.
We even put the guardrail on top of the shark tank when the sharks were there.
Oh,
So that
man.
was one of the safety features that was very last to be done, and we're like, shouldn't we put this up?
Before the
Okay, all
sharks.
right,
All
we're good,
right.
we're good. So that was one of the favorites, and we did, the orangutan exhibit. So a lot of the entertainment type of stuff, the casinos, Hollywood Casino. And then as the multifamily started, we did the One Light Towers, Two Light Towers. We're currently doing the Westport Apartments, a lot of hotels, and actually the casinos are starting to come back again. So we're also working on the Bally's reconfiguring, which is really, really nice. I live down in that area, and I
Okay,
see it
nice.
all the time. And then we just completed the soccer training facility, the KC Current training facility. And if you
Right
haven't
in
been
Riverside.
there,
That's beautiful. Oh, it's
they
gorgeous.
did it right. I mean, top notch, beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah,
very well.
whenever I drive by there, it almost reminds me of like a smaller like English football club's pitch. I mean, it's almost you could play a game there. I mean, there's
Yeah,
it's absolutely beautiful right there on the Riverfront Park right there in Riverside. It's
yeah,
gorgeous. And you mentioned so many other beautiful things that you guys are working on as well, or you have worked on. The Isle of Capri or Bally's, right?
yes, yeah.
Thank you. Good
No,
goodness. That
right?
was
I
the
know.
biggest eyesore forever.
And there's a big controversy is like, "Ew," it's, in the construction industry, like, I don't really like that. I actually think it's really cool structure myself, but
Yeah.
yeah,
The colors were awful, but yeah,
yeah, I
I
guess
love
probably
what
because
you
it was
guys
the
are
arts.
building onto it too. I mean, that whole backside has been
Mhm,
thrown up so
mhm,
fast,
mhm.
right? So I'm sure you
Right,
guys are making that look
exactly.
beautiful on the inside.
Yeah,
So
and then you cross the railroad tracks, and we did all of the woodworking in Rieger. So if you go, we didn't do electric
very
park, but we
cool.
did the original build out of all that. Even the slide, we installed the slide.
That's awesome. That's such
So
a staple too. I feel like nobody knew about that, and now it's like such a staple in Kansas City of the Rieger slide, and everybody's getting
I
down there.
know.
And if you haven't toured that place, take the tour.
Yes.
Amazing Kansas City history down there. That family has been here forever. It's still family owned, so
Yep.
absolutely amazing.
Yep. And he's a great guy. I call him a kid, but he's by my age. But yeah, he is great. He's very Kansas City is home.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And they make a great product. So if you haven't tried it, definitely get a little Rieger
yep.
whiskey.
Mhm.
Absolutely. They make a good gin too. Actually, I'm not a gin
I
guy,
actually
but
have a bottle up here.
yeah,
I have
they
a bottle up here.
as far as gin goes, it's
I
that's
agree.
top of my list. That's pretty good
Agreed.
stuff.
Mhm.
So Brandy, let's get into the meat of the show here. So not really IBC, right? But
Yep.
who is Brandy McCombs? Give us your elevator pitch in a couple sentences.
Okay. Who is Brandy becomes? Well, Brandy grew up in a small little town. Actually, fun fact was where Joe Burrow went to high school. I went to Athens High School
Oh
in that
no.
poverty-driven southeastern Ohio. mom and dad, this shoe factory, very small, moved to Florida when I was 19. I said, I don't want to be in this cold weather anymore. I'm moving to Florida, which I vacation often still to this day. And kind of grew up through my 20s down there. And then 2008 came, and then there was not much going on. So Kansas City was the right move, obviously. It was either Ohio, stay in Florida, change my profession, or let's go to Kansas City. So I said, okay. So in a roundabout way, I always call myself a gypsy. But I do love Kansas City. I'm not born and raised here, but it does feel like home. Actually, my dad I just moved here a couple of years ago from Ohio, which I never thought was ever gonna
That's awesome.
ever move.
Amazing.
So he's close now. I lost my mom about a year and a half ago.
Oh, no.
But my dad came close to me, so that was very nice.
I gotcha.
And yeah, Brandy likes all things weather outside, right? I don't care about being hot. I don't like to be cold. So if it involves snow, I'm probably not going to see you there. And I like to travel.
I love
That's
that.
basically what I do for fun or hobbies. I'm travel or vacation. It's my hobby.
Love that. I love that. So, I mean, okay, so for somebody that doesn't like the cold, how was Kansas City on the short list? I mean, obviously we're not, northern cold, right? Minnesota and many, the northern states, Wisconsin, right? But how did we get on the list for attractive places for somebody that was in Florida?
My rule of thumb was I get to go back to Florida as often as I want, as I can.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting for my company to grow this large. And I originally started it down in Florida thinking, okay, well, it's not going on too well down here because of what construction was back then. So I'll go up to Kansas City and I'm going to try it, and then I can just restructure and have it two places. Well, that hasn't happened because I'm not. I mean, we've had a couple jobs, carpentry jobs down in Florida, but most of our business is here. It's just hard to manage, and we've just grown so well here that it's kind of hard to leave. And the people, I've created so many relationships that have been key to me personally. I am who I am. I wear my heart on my sleeve. You know where you stand with me at any time. Sometimes it's good and bad, but I enjoy people. Period. And I think that Kansas City vibe has what I need.
I
Like I
love
said,
that.
I don't like cold, but really, time goes by so fast sometimes that I honestly forget about it. It
Yeah.
sounds crazy, but it's really
No,
not
I
as
get
bad
it.
as I thought it was going to be.
I get it. No, I mean, I was kind of in the same thought process as you were, right? When I turned 18, I was gone, right? I was like, let me go check out California. I want to see the West Coast, right? And then me and my wife decided we were going to have kids, and we were
Yeah.
like, no brainer. We're going home. I mean, cost of living is fantastic. The people are great.
Mhm.
Everything that you mentioned, and it's
Yeah.
something. It's funny that you mentioned that about the weather, because all my friends in California, I'm like, come live here. They're like, I don't do cold. I'm like, you don't even notice it. It goes
Don't.
so fast. It's fine.
It's legit. And if anybody who knows me would have been like, bring it, you're crazy. But it does. I don't know. Maybe it's just because getting older and it's, older women have a different change. It's just get hot all the time. I don't know, but it's really not as bad as I remember it being.
Yeah, yeah, that's so cool. I mean, it's good, and we're happy to have you here, obviously. So I'm glad whatever it is that got you over the weather is gone for
Yep.
sure. So
Yep.
cool, great answers. I love that. Now let's talk a little bit back into IBC a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what the social media journey was like. So you started in 2008, right, at zero, like everybody does with social media and trying to build that up. And
Yep.
social media was a little bit younger then, and then you had a little bit of another transition in 2014. Maybe not starting quite at zero, right, but starting that other division and getting the word out. So talk a little bit about what that journey's been like for you and what the process has been like.
That's a funny question because in my office, the worst thing that anybody can say is industry standard. And in construction, there are a lot of industry standard mindsets. And I'm not going to lie, it wasn't until COVID till I finally was able to change mindsets in my office. I know I own it. I'm only one person and I can only drive it as much as I have the time to. If someone else is not going to do, I'm going to say a buy-in. So it was slow in the beginning because I couldn't get anybody. I was doing it myself, and
Yeah.
I don't really know that it truly was probably what relevant for what we were doing up until the last, handful of years. And then COVID really pushed it. And like I said, I finally got my team to get it done. So I was doing it, and then I hired part-time people to come in and kind of do it. And then actually within the last couple of years, it's another job. That is a full-time job that I actually use a third party to take care of, because it really is. The days of networking to going to events are kind of gone. I enjoy those, but I am getting older and my nights are really mine now. So I actually don't mind the social media taking over, because it also removes me from having to do those late night events. So the journey has been, I want to say clunky is a very good word. And I think we finally hit the nail on the head within the last, I don't know, I mean, honestly, 6-8 months, just now. And it
Yeah.
does work. It surprisingly works better than I even expected, and it's blowing everybody else in the office away. So
That's awesome.
it's
That's
key.
awesome. And it is, yeah. I mean, it's a full-time job. You're 100% right to keep up with it, especially with all the different, back when you started, it was really LinkedIn and Facebook were the playgrounds as far as social media when it came to business. Now we've got, Instagrams and TikToks and,
And you got the
WhatsApp and
Google
all the
Analytics
other.
and your
Right.
website, and you got to keep on front of this, and you got to, oh my goodness, it's a lot to take care of,
Yeah.
especially with
Yeah.
two companies on two different spectrums, right? So it's
Right.
trying to co-mingle that is still something we're trying to figure out, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I definitely
Is the better
understand.
solution.
Yeah.
Do you have one that houses everything, or do you have the separate ones? Because we've done
Right.
both.
Yeah. Interesting. So what have the results been like, kind of doing them together, and then what have you seen the differences with kind of separating them a little bit?
Separation became a separation internally. It was a culture shock in a negative way in our company, where it kind of separated the two companies when I promote team, and
Yeah.
it started with social media. I think separating the websites, separating individuals internally, social media, and it became a negative in our culture. So
Sure.
now that we're actually commingling, things have changed back to where they should be.
That's so
Ironically
interesting.
enough, I had no idea that was going to happen, but it did. It did shift.
Yeah.
Um,
Kind of
my
created a them and us kind of.
did
Interesting.
did
And that started on social media, which
did,
is
which
even
is
more
ironic.
interesting.
I know,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
That's how powerful social media is,
Yeah.
right? If that doesn't say that right there should show that even a culture can change internally because of social media.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's, yeah,
'Cause
you think of
it
it
wasn't gonna be another
typically
one. Yeah.
as like, showing the culture, right? I mean, kind of taking that culture and putting that on social media, but that's so interesting that it kind of worked in
Mhm.
reverse when we
See?
separate, the channels and the website and everything like that. So obviously you're working with a third party now, and we know, us working with different clients as well, it's sometimes hard to capture that messaging and that branding in the words of what the company would be doing. So talk a little bit about what that process was, and kind of finding that, communicating that with the team that you're working with, and how they're executing on that.
Okay, so it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
We are finding ourselves, because as our industry standard in COVID, we didn't have a lot of photos, right? That is, and everybody's visual.
Yeah.
And with our branding, we don't want to take someone else. We don't want to be stock. We don't want to buy stock.
Yeah.
So that has been a very difficult challenge for us to schedule. Think about it. If we're doing a project, we've got to get a photo shoot on maybe a high profile job. That doesn't happen. And when we're in a lot of stages where there's not a lot of pretty work. It's behind the scenes that it might not look good on the website. So that's been super challenging because there's stuff that we want to say and we want to do, but we don't want to buy stock
Mhm.
and we want to showcase what we do. But some of the photos that we have are, our cell phones. My guy's in the field doing the cell phone shoots. So
Yeah.
we've implemented starting next month. Actually, we haven't done this yet. I used to go on job sites. I used to go mingle with the guys, walk the job sites. But when you grow, you kind of get away from that. So I'm going back to that. So starting next month, I have it on my calendar every month. Going to take a photo person with me, going to go meet with the guys, walk the jobs and build that back up. So that the people who are taking the photos are also going to be doing the social media. So I'm not just telling them, they're seeing it.
Right.
Because I'm that kind of
That's
person. I
awesome.
gotta see it. I gotta see it to understand it. And for what we do, literally, I mean, when we hire all the time, especially office personnel, I'm like, let's go to the job site because you can say door frames hard way all day long, but there's so many different ways to install different types.
Mhm.
It's a little much.
Yeah,
So
it's meticulous too. I mean, there's just millions and millions of pieces, right, that go into this stuff. So it's yeah, absolutely. Until you really get the eyes on the organization, right, and how much care they're taking into putting into the work. Yeah, that's a great answer, right? Let them see it for themselves, right?
and the
Get them
wording
involved.
and
Yeah,
wording, right? Everybody calls something the same, but it's the same thing.
right.
That's I mean that has been really challenging, especially with people like construction mindset versus like a sales and a marketing person that they don't
Right.
know. But
Right.
I'm calling it one thing, it's really something else. And I would say that's been a challenge
Yeah.
is terminology,
The lingo.
lingo.
Picking it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. Makes
Mm.
perfect sense. Well, I'm sure they will figure that out. Now let's get into the next part here, which is your defining moment. So every superhero, if you ever watch a superhero movie, there's always that defining moment within the origin story. What do you think yours was when it comes to your life and your career?
So I would say there's two different areas, two different answers for that. Life wise, starting out growing up would be my grandfather and my dad. They were entrepreneurs, so I knew at a young age that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Did I think it was going to be construction? No. Sorry about that noise in the background.
Oh, you're fine.
Get it off there. Um, again, we went to Teams phones, so it pops up.
I knew I recognized the tone. I was like,
Yeah,
man, is that
we
Zoom or
just went to
Skype?
Teams, so yeah, sorry about that one.
No, you're fine.
So grandfather and father, growing up, but they both owned their own businesses. So one was a convenience store, deli, and whatever, and another one was an auto parts store. So I knew I was going to own my own business, but it was supposed to be a restaurant. So that's a whole nother story about how I got into construction. So I would say they were my heroes because I watched them, I lived with it, and I enjoyed that. As far as a fictitious superhero, it was obviously Wonder Woman. I don't know that anybody doesn't love Wonder Woman, period. Um, but I would say now, currently, I'm sure most of you watching and listening, Mark One, Rosie Privatera. When I moved to Kansas City, I saw her as an icon, and I was like, it was Mark One Electric, and I said, I want to be like her. So I called her. I did. I called her one day, and I'm like, Rosie, I just wanted to know. I want you to know that I really respect you, and I want to be you one day. So it's kind of funny. It's kind of a story. She's like, so how's it feel? I'm like, yeah, okay. So word of advice: be careful what you wish for sometimes, but I do enjoy it. She has been a very good mentor to me and every woman business out there. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. She's been very an advocate for a lot of us. So
I need to get her on the show because I
yeah,
have had several guests mention
really,
how amazing she is. Yeah, Karen Krenkovich was on
yeah, yeah,
last
yeah.
week.
Okay,
Mentioned her. Jennifer Hart, I believe, mentioned
yep.
her as well. So
Okay, there you go.
I mean, it's down the line. I need
See,
Rosie, I'm gonna tag you. You need to come on the show for
and
sure.
we will make sure she does then. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, that
she
is
is very
awesome.
very good. Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah,
then there's other support groups like I belong to the Heldsburg Entrepreneur Mentoring Program. I'm also the current chair of the Builders Association. We don't go by association anymore, but the Builders, who I have been a member of for years, and I'm the first woman out of 136 years. So it's been an honor
Wow.
to stand in this position, because we went through a merger, but a unification between the builders and the AGC. So we're working through that right now. So
Yeah, that is amazing. Obviously, this is not an industry that's dominated by women, right? And luckily here in Kansas City, we've got so many great women entrepreneurs that are stepping into these roles and really changing the way that the industry looks here in the Midwest, which kind of interesting because we're usually quite a bit behind
correct.
everybody else when it comes to
Agreed.
those things, right? So
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
so it's really cool to see, all these women that are stepping up and taking over these companies within the industry or creating their own. So talk a little bit about what that experience has been like for you and really redefining what leadership looks like in the construction industry.
Yeah. Well, that's great that I'm glad that you had Karen on there and Jennifer Hart. So Jennifer Hart and I actually, this is the one thing about Kansas City and the women in it. We are competitors. We do the exact same thing. And actually, we are okay with it. Jennifer Hart sits on the board of the builders as well. And we actually give each other work. We coexist as a team.
I
So
love
that is
that.
one thing about promoting each other. And then you mentioned Karen. I know she's doing a lot of great things, and she's always promoting me. And we give each other work. She takes care of my maintenance on my facilities and installs and all that. So, like you had said, you would think that Kansas City is usually lagging behind, but not in that space.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm going to say that's because just entrepreneur spirit in general has been prominent here. If you think about it, look how many freaking people. I just had lunch with a guy yesterday. I didn't realize the guy with Morton Salt lived here. Right? We got the Fish Techs, we've got the Hallmarks, we've got
Yeah.
the Hellsberg Diamonds, H&R Block. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's just a handful of people.
Right.
So I'm going to say it's not that it's gender. It's just, I think that's just the community.
Yeah.
That's people here.
We
That's
have a
why I said I
great
like it.
entrepreneur community here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so many support systems for the entrepreneurs here as well, which unless you really start to look at it, maybe you don't know that, right? But look at your Dan Smiths, right? And the Keystone Collective over there, right? I mean, there's just so many people
The
that are
sandbox, right? That sandbox
absolutely.
digital thing, right? There's a lot of
It's
resources.
amazing. It's amazing. And what I've seen here too, obviously this is a very entrepreneur heavy show, is the willingness, like you said,
Yeah.
really to not only work with people that may benefit them, but their competitors, right? And share tips and be friendly. And it just
Mhm.
really kind of goes back to kind of what you mentioned earlier with the people in Kansas City just being
Mhm.
the people in Kansas City. It's like I want to say it's like a Jeep thing, right? In
Yeah,
that kind of
it's not
sense, like
even
you
deep.
don't
That's
know.
funny. Yes, it's the Jeep. I know what you're saying. It is.
That's
Everybody
so
waves.
funny.
I'm like, is this a cult? What is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, like everybody in Kansas City has like Kansas City swag,
Yeah.
like nobody loves Kansas City more than Kansas Cityans for
I was
sure.
actually watching the news, I don't know, a couple months ago, and somebody had just moved to Kansas City that started Anchor. And her first advice she said that somebody ever gave her was buy a Kansas City shirt, swag.
Yeah,
Buy Kansas City swag, you're gonna fit right in. And I was like,
absolutely.
that's very interesting.
You'll look like a local. Yeah, you would think it's like, oh, all the tourists. Like you go to New York and all the tourists are wearing the New York, I Heart New York stuff, right? You
Right.
come to Kansas City, it's all the locals that are in the
Yeah, it's
Charlie
usually
Hustle stuff and the
the
Mayflower.
Charlie Hustle. Yeah, he's a good guy too. If you haven't had him on the show, he's got a great story.
Yeah,
I was with him in the Chamber top 10 a couple years past. So, but the heart, I mean, now it's the symbol of of the whole city.
I love
The
it.
heart.
Yeah, it's so great too, and it makes such perfect sense for where we're
Yes,
located, right? For that to be
it
the symbol.
does.
So I
Yeah, and that's
absolutely
funny
love
you
that.
say that because that was one thing we were talking about. We're redoing our website again, and that was one word I said we need to use that word. It's the heart of America. We really are.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it really is. I mean, yeah, and it's such a boiling pot for the country. I feel like,
Mhm.
between East Coast and West Coast and Southerners and in the Northern Midwest. So, yeah, absolutely. Now we're talking a lot about the heroes that we have here in the city. Getting back onto the superhero train here a little bit. What attributes do you feel really define what a hero is?
Um, one is would be that like the give back, the care, the what word am I
Yeah,
looking for? Is the giving back, the humanity, being everyday common humanity, ethical and strong willed,
I like
very
that.
determined and direct and know what they want, right?
I
So
love
know
that.
what you want and treat people with kind. Being
Absolutely.
generous and is my philosophy. And I've always said that one way that when you say even just normal people, um, I I don't want to lose my way, if that makes sense, right? You see people who you see American greed all the time, right? And
Yeah,
I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person. So no matter what, I hope that is the thing that I don't when um, public eye and money change people. So to be a good hero, I feel that that is key.
unwavering.
They
Yeah,
don't lose that. They don't lose
I
that
love
trait.
that. I love that. And I think the strong-willed is a great answer that we don't hear very often, right? I feel like a lot of heroes are very confident in that they know the way, right? And having that strong will behind that
Everybody
is
has
part
that has those days and those underneath. So we're all just
of
human.
100%. Yeah, well, superheroes aren't, but we are. So as
Right.
human heroes are absolutely. We've got good days and bad days, and be
Right.
sure to give yourself a little bit of grace. I was actually just talking with a friend
Mhm.
about this yesterday. He's being really hard on himself. I was like, hey man, cut
Yeah.
yourself a break. We're all just trying to do our best here, and I tell you what, if you don't mess up, you're not going to learn half the lessons that you were meant to learn to begin with. So it's a good thing when it doesn't always run smoothly. That's what builds the character and shows the character, right? But also teaches you those good lessons that you need to learn.
That's hard to learn. That's very hard to
Yeah,
learn. I honestly probably up until about 6 months ago had just learned that myself.
really
Yeah. Yeah.
unbelievable.
Went. I don't know if you've heard of the Hoffman process. It's a week long event that's in California, and it's pretty intense. But it takes you through that journey of give yourself grace, right?
Yeah,
We're human, and stop beating yourself up. What you are worrying about is never really truly 1% ever that ever really happens. So 99% of
right.
stuff that I'm worrying about is really not necessary.
Right. We're causing ourselves undue stress and killing ourselves
Yes.
earlier than we should be. And it's good to be prepared, right? I mean, nobody's saying go into anything blindly, but
Right.
there's no point in getting the anxiety about stuff that we can't control anyways. Whatever's
Yeah.
gonna happen is gonna happen. So
Yep.
just do your best.
Exactly.
That's
Yep.
great answers, Brittany. Now, last question for you. If you have to pick one superhero that relates to Brandy McCombs, who would that be? And tell us a couple reasons why.
That would be the Wonder Woman, right? I
Wonder
don't know
Woman.
if
Okay.
you've seen the new one, right?
Yeah.
She had to go through as a child and grew up and who she is, and she's just powerful. And I'd say Wonder Woman. I actually have little Wonder Woman characters. And actually, our old website, I was Wonder Woman. I originally wanted to have a funny part of our website,
Yeah.
and I was Wonder Woman. So
Oh,
I
I
would say
love that.
because she does have that strong will. She's confident. She went through a lot of hurdles to get to where she is, and but she's still there and strong.
I
I
love
like to
that.
be strong.
And she's honest, right? I mean, there's so many great
Yes,
things. Yeah, you can't say enough good things about Wonder Woman for
you
sure. She
can't.
is absolutely awesome. Brandy, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's truly a pleasure to have you and pick your brain here for a little bit. How can people keep up with IBC? How can they connect with you? Go ahead and put
Yeah,
all your stuff out there.
yeah. We have a website which is ibccarpentry.com. We also have our Facebook, which is IBC Inc. KC. We have our Instagram and our LinkedIn is IBC KC.
Perfect. Check them out on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and then obviously the website as well. So again, Brandy, thank you so much for having coming on the show. It was an absolute pleasure talking with you.
Well, thank you very much. It's been great. I love these things. So it gets me hyped up. So
Awesome.
the rest of the day is great.
I love it. I love it. Well, everybody out there, thanks for tuning in. You guys have a great day out there.
Thank you.
Hey, are we still live? Hey guys, we're still live. Hey guys, this is Kevin Kwok, founder of J29 Creative Group. So who are we? We're a marketing agency here in Kansas City. We're all about a holistic approach to marketing that builds your brand and nurtures online community. But to be honest with you, you guys don't care.